Balloons did it first. 2012 was when BTD Battles released, and now look where we are in 2024 with TDS following suit. Now, all jokes aside, I mean, I'm not going to act like they're the same thing, even though it does take a surprising amount of inspiration, like the sending, the eco gain, and the slider that shows you what you sent, but it is different in its own ways. Although the map is barren,
Hello.
it does a good job of taking inspiration and adds 2v2, something that the original doesn't have. They do need to fix the balancing of ascending, because you die way too quickly to bolts. They're just really overpowered. While in its early release, I'll be trying to find out what the best loadout is, and I'll be searching for bugs, because there were a lot of bugs last time this mode was released for beta testing. This will also turn into a mini review of the new and improved Ace Pilot, because it is basically what everyone and their mother is using right now. The first loadout I tried in Duo was the Engineer, the DJ, the Ace, Farm, and Golden Soldier. I figured that the Engineer is cheap enough, and it gets all its detections really early, like lead and hidden. The Golden Soldier is just a solid option because it's really cheap and powerful, and the Farm would provide just an extra money edge over the opponents. I also brought along my friend Suited for this Duo demonstration. After a little bit of a wait, we got put in against each other. Something I quickly realized was the ecosystem. The little circle thing down here gives you money every time the bar goes around. Every time you send an enemy, it increases the number, giving you more money, and it is basically a new way to farm. Now, I have to say that this is probably my least favorite map because it is literally one loop, if you can even call it that. But it was prime pickings for the Ace or anything that could see the whole track, which is exactly what I did on round 5. Because the Ace could literally see the entire map. We started to struggle the bosses and hiddens, and it was only round 9, so it became apparent that you needed something that could see hiddens, deal enough damage, and kill bosses very early, which was quite the task because some options were just too expensive. The only option I had was a soldier that I put down a while ago, which was doing poorly, but the teammate shotgunners thankfully clutched up at the very end. We didn't have relief for long though because we were getting spammed with breakers, hiddens, and armoreds. We were 3 minutes into the match and we were struggling to stay above water because the income was so poor in this mode. I was doing my best to send things and get enough money to defend, but eventually the bolts unlocked and you could probably guess what happened next. Some things I learned from this match were, you don't get enough time to get DJ because of how fast-paced the match is, or at least on that map. The soldier is pretty good, the farm is useless, probably, I didn't really use it. The Ace is good due to the ability to drop bombs and see the whole wide area, and the income is trash. We ended up getting put against each other over and over for some reason, which feels like a bug, but it started to feel like it was on purpose. After hopping into another game, my teammate placed down... Okay, so it seems like shotgunners are actually a good move for some reason. This time, I let the farm cook because of how trash the money gain was in this mode. After some developments, I realized that the opponents were weak to hidden, but apparently the Pyromancer is just as strong, so my plans were thwarted. Seriously, look how strong it is. I got a spy plane because in this new update, the Ace now grants permanent hidden detection to towers in its radius, instead of the 15 seconds at the start of the match, which is extremely OP and very huge. I started sending bolts before they could, and they started taking some damage, but then again, I was thwarted because he got an accelerator up just in time. I did actually get a support DJ in, but was it enough? We had bolts of our own and other enemies, and I was changing my settings, but you could see 3 hidden bosses flying through our defenses, and just when we thought we had the lead, this happened.
Climb.
We actually managed to pull away with the victory, but probably by pixels. I couldn't see because settings were obviously in the way. Then, we went into another game, but both of our teammates left because I guess they were also trying to do the same thing, which was get on the same team, which is fair. We did end up playing the whole match out, and I did actually win. The next loadout I tried was Ace, Farm, Golden Soldier, Excel, and Mini. The reason I chose Accelerator and Mini was in case I didn't have enough for the Accelerator, the Mini was almost half the price. The early game proceeded as normal, but my teammate got a crook boss. At the time, I didn't think it was a viable play because it wasn't even golden, and I really slept on the Crook boss, but what made it insanely good were all the goons that would stack up right here, adding crazy amounts of DPS and acting as a backup meat shield. Suited came up with the genius idea of putting a pyro behind spawn, which I have to give it to him was really smart. It wasn't long though before our defenses couldn't hold up and collapsed on round 13. I tried to get a minigunner to save the goon wall, but there was no match. Maybe it was placement or something, but we were heavily overrun by swarms of armored skeletons and breakers. When we got into our next match, we finally got put into the same team after like 9 million games, and came up with the idea for me to use Ace while he farmed. With the new buff, the Ace was extremely strong because at level 0 it does 2 damage instead of 1, doubling its DPS. Then, I had the brilliant idea of my own, using 2 aces going in opposite directions. Now, I don't know if I made the idea, but, you know, it's the first time and it's ever been on camera, so I'm going to coin it as mine. I don't even know if it doubles the DPS, but the thought was that the ace would see 2 times more often, so... You know, it worked pretty well. I don't know, maybe it has no effect. I continued to spam aces and not focusing on sending as much. We weren't exactly sure what their strategy was, having 2 cowboys down there, but the problems arose on our own. The aces were good against swarms, but not individual bosses, and we had 2 on our side. We decided it was okay. We killed 1, but left 1 level 1 soldier to kill the second. It somehow did. I still don't know how that happened. We started to struggle pretty bad, but all the farm we could afford suited an accelerator which brought us back. It was the perfect strat. Ace spam for the bombs and accelerator for the single target DPS. This was going to be a good strategy before we got too caught up in ourselves and the opponents just lost. Now, this is where things get really strange. Remember how I mentioned that we'd be seeing glitches? Well, we got shoved with a few here. When we rematched and they accepted, their bullets that they're trying to kill us with spilled over into the next game. Luckily, when we readied up, they went away. Nope, just kidding, they're back and they killed us instantly. Which was kind of funny, to be honest. So we rematched for the 3rd time, which seemed to have a strange effect on the game. For some reason, the income was every 0.1 seconds and the waves were starting to fly by, effectively speeding up the game by times 20. We didn't notice this until I looked down and saw the stupid amount of money I had, and we got an accelerator on round 7, around 17 seconds into the match. Now, it was just a matter of who had the better towers. I was too scared to send enemies in fear it would ruin what would happen, so I went most of the game without sending much. Seriously, look at that cash flow. Suited had down most of his accelerators by 1 minute into the match, which was unheard of, and it wasn't long before I had followed suit. The opponents had an interesting strategy of using a necromancer, which is a tower I never would have expected, but that's not the weirdest part. Sure, they had accelerators, but that wasn't what was dealing the damage. The brawlers were on crack. They were killing everything before they could even enter the field. It was a little bit concerning to see how 2 max brawlers were decimating our max accelerators, but we kept pushing and hoping it wasn't real, because it looked like a glitch. Even though this whole match was a glitch. Like seriously, look at our side versus theirs. This might be the most enemies I've seen on the map in this game ever. We tried deleting and replacing, but it was no use. We died on wave 29 in 6.5 minutes. That was one of the weirdest glitches I'd ever seen ever. Off camera, I tried a new loadout, but I had found out that Golden Soldier, Cryomancer, Ace, Accelerator, and Engineer were the best towers to use. But the key to this whole loadout was Cryomancer. Your slowing is so overpowered, and if you just combine that with the ace bombs or just a small amount of damage, it's insane. Not to mention the Cryomancer is only $300 to place. Sadly, you can't get it anymore, so you'll have to wait until Christmas. But that's my discoverings that I found off camera. Overall, I think PvP mode is not too bad of a mode. It needs to be polished, and there's a lot of bugs, obviously. But it's a good mode, and I can't wait to see the final product when it comes out. I might make a video on it, I might not, but this video has taken a long time to edit already, I'm sure. But yeah, subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.